So, hello everyone. Welcome to our Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. I'm delighted to have Vic Haynes with us from Saint Gobain Pam, who's the head of people and culture. So, Vic, great to have you on board today.
Hi, thanks for having me, Stephen.
Yeah, good.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's gonna be. We had a good chat beforehand. So, Vic's got a new drink she's shared with me this morning, so she might be a bit hyperactive. And what's the drink you've had today, Vic?
Well, I've had a little bit of lion's mane in my matcha latte this morning, so I'm firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. So I've been educated this morning about what that drink was. So from that point of view, so thank you so much for educating me, and I will look out for it. So from that point of view. So Vic, today, so in advance, Vic's had 7 questions to kind of get that preparation ready for today's podcast. So we set Vic up to win. But Vic, before we start the kind of questions, would you just give people a brief update about your career so far, how you've got to where you are in Pam, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of fell into HR, if you like, about 12 years ago. Which I sometimes feel bad saying I fell into HR, because so many people I speak to now are saying, oh, I'd love to be in HR, but you can't get in. So I fell into it, but I loved it immediately. I loved being part of knowing everything, knowing everyone, really being integrated into every part of a business, getting all the gossip, and impacting on people personally, whilst also being integral part of a business. So kind of moved through various roles, all kind of industrial, male, shall I say, traditionally cultured businesses. Landed in Saint Gobain Pam about 7 years ago, and for the last year and a half have led the people and culture team, which I'm absolutely loving. It's a fabulous team to be part of, and a business that's really open to investing in people, their experiences, and doing the right thing by their people. So it's been a great challenge, lots of opportunity, and yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's really good, and like most people, and I love that your honesty of I fell into that role. So I fell into banking, 26 years, more than 26 years ago, but I fell into banking, and people go, how did you get into it? Well, I just saw an advert in a paper and went, I'll have a go at that, if that makes sense, and then stayed there for that point of view, rather than it was a preset determined career. So yeah, it's really good to get in there. But what I love there is about the variety you get involved with, isn't it? It's a really variety role. It keeps you going. Every day is different. That's what I see from your role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just, in HR, we literally get involved in conversations from finance through to operations, what's gone wrong out on the factory floor, down to, supplier issues. We get included in every conversation going on in the business, and get a really breadth of knowledge about how that business lives and breathes, and what's important to it, and feel like you can really impact on so many levels. It's really rewarding, and I don't think now I'd struggle to be in a role that is pigeonholed into just one area of the business. I love getting in amongst everyone, knowing everything.
Well, it's that breadth in it, and also you can see kind of in your face that excitement of I like getting involved with it, and I want to help and I want to support and that. So and that shines through. So that's really good. So today we've got Vic we're gonna ask questions around. So more or less kind of last year and the year before, Vic and I got to know each other, but you started to move forward into what's called implementing a more modern HR framework. So it sounds like a mouthful, but what you've looked at is actually changing your HR policies from the old traditional ones, which are grievance, bullying, harassment, those kind of things, and moving it into a more modern framework for colleagues, etc., which you call Work It Out. From that perspective. So today I'm just going to ask Vic some questions around it. How's it gone? What's kind of she's found out from that point of view? So what would you say, how would you describe what is a modern HR framework in your world? So as in Work It Out, what is it, so people understand?
Well, like you say, Work It Out for us has replaced all of our traditional policies. It's replaced our disciplinary and grievance, our attendance, performance policy. Basically, it's a way of working, how we behave when conflict arises, how we work together to get the best out of any situation, and basically encouraging people to have a conversation first, have that conversation. Let's work together as adults to come to a positive solution. that means that we can be, you know, learn and grow from whatever is happening for us at the moment. That's what it is, simply. It's about talking to each other and dealing with things as they arise, because they inevitably will. We're working with people. People have disagreements. People do things wrong. People make mistakes. People have lives outside of work that we have to, you know, tackle.
Yeah.
But let's do it in a respectful and adult way.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation and let's work it out.
Yeah, and it's from that, what I really like that point of view is about trying to bring back that adult to adult approach rather than to go through old policies and all this kind of stuff. And we all know that if you've got a grievance bullying harassment policy, 9 times out of 10 colleagues do not get what they want from it. So they've gone through that heartache, that pain, etc. So what made you kind of change or think about changing for Saint Gobain Pam, moving away from those old traditional policies to kind of a more modern framework? What went through your mind and that kind of stuff?
I mean, we'd always talked about our policies just being rubbish. Like, what do they even mean? Like, in what other context would you talk to people in this way, you know, and put these rules down as to how we're going to have a conversation? But what really triggered the change was when we were embedding our values. So we've done a lot of work around our values, about what it means to work for Pam and what's important to us as a business. And our people came up with our values, which is show we care, make it happen, and be our best. So we're really proud of them. We're embedding them. And then we just felt that whichever way we spun it, our policies were not showing we care. They were not empowering people to just make things happen. They just didn't fit with what we and our people were saying is important to us. So that was kind of the trigger to say, we need to change this. We need to change our policies and procedures to fit how we and our people are saying we want to work together. So that was a trigger. But then there's also looking at our business and how we were behaving and issues that were coming up. There was a desperate need for something drastic to happen to change the culture. There's a kind of a bit of a blame culture, a finger pointing. Business performance was dipping. So in our plants, we were struggling with meeting basic standards which was resulting in things breaking down. It's just not meeting our KPIs. So everything comes down to people. We rely on people, and if those people aren't being treated with respect, don't feel valued or empowered, then they're going to act like children. And that's kind of what we were dealing with. You know, our leaders were behaving like teachers and our people were behaving like naughty school kids, and it was just something had to change. So that's where we kind of thought, you know, this is our opportunity. Let's do something big. Let's throw the rule book out the window and start again. And that's what we did.
And it's I just love the bit where you went back to about, we looked at our values and then suddenly realized that our policies weren't aligned to those, which is great. And actually then getting people involved to think bigger, broader, and it is brave and courageous to move from a policies that were written in the 90s to a now a more modern bit. And that and how did you get stakeholders involved? What did you do? Because you've got different you've got like a union and that kind of, how did you get people involved to go on this journey? Because that's the other part with it. How did that happen?
So we have a great relationship with our union. So we were keen to involve them early on, have conversations with them, make sure that they were on the same page as us as to what we were trying to do. And that was the easy bit, if I'm honest. The unions, you know, the employee reps have the same values as us. They were part of coming up with our values. So it was a no-brainer, you know, what is best for our people, and it's treating them with respect, holding people accountable, and having honest, kind conversations. So it was an easy sell, if I'm honest. I'd say the harder bit was getting our leaders on board. So not our kind of senior leadership. Again, it's a no-brainer. If we get people empowered and engaged, then that's going to impact our bottom line. So that was easy. the difficult bit was the frontline managers, because they're the ones who are going to have these conversations, who are struggling with the day to day, feel like they're kind of swimming through mud, trying to get people to, in their words, do as they're told, follow the rules. So for us to say we're going to scrap the rules created panic. So that was the challenge. And it was just about talking to them, not just dropping this on them and being like, right, get on with it, but a continuous process of conversations, how it's going to work, understanding the reason why we were doing it, how it was going to work, support and coaching. And that's ongoing. That's a continuous process that will continue indefinitely. It wasn't a one-stop shop, one shop, whatever that word is.
We know what you mean, Vic. Yeah.
We didn't just drop it on him and run, basically. But we appreciated the impact it's going to have on their daily lives, on their roles, on how they behave, because a lot of them have been in that role for a long time and had been taught to lead in a certain way, and now we're telling them not to lead in that way. So that's going to take time to change mindsets and change habits. So we're still on that journey, if I'm honest, but we're committed to supporting those leaders to get there.
And it's the bit there about that journey. So I know when we started working together and talking, it's a 3-year plan. It's not a lot of people seem to think, I've had these policies for 30, 40 years, it's all going to be rosy in the garden within a couple of months when the new policy lands. It's not. It's about actually taking people on that journey to embed over a 3-year period to really make it sustainable. That's where you see the difference and the benefits. What I did love, and I think you noticed the benefit of bringing your unions, the reason you've got a good relationship because you keep your unions talking, engaged, you listen to their views and work with. So that was really great from that point of view, and also your senior leaders. But I think you're right, it's the people doing the do need that help, don't they? That kind of constant pull. We can't just say go and get on with it, because that's where we see chaos and issues, but they need that constant support and develop, isn't it? That's how they move forward.
And I think this was different. It was different, what all their peers were doing in their own businesses, and what where they'd worked before. It's scary. So bringing in outside people as well to talk about that this can work. So yourself, you helped with talking to the unions. We had other colleagues where it worked before, just to bring that confidence that we're not completely lost the plot here. We've got advice, we've sought experts to help us with this, and we have confidence it's the right thing to do. So that helped as well, especially with the unions, because I think we've tried lots of things. I love trying new stuff. So to have that confidence and not just another Vic's harebrained scheme helps as well.
And also I think the bit where you made it your own, and this is really key. So I remember you made a video, didn't you, to try and sell actually the concept to the colleagues around the plant, etc., which I thought was a really good video, and it was personable, and also a bit about actually working with the colleagues, really trying to get them to understand, to sell the benefits. There was lots of good stuff that went on to take them on the journey, wasn't it? And even rephrasing it so the colleagues could get it as work it out was quite a radical change, but it made it terminology for colleagues at SGP to understand, didn't it? That's where you took some brave moves.
We were always keen from the beginning, if we're going to rewrite our policies, we rewrite it in language that means something to us. So we came up with some really bad titles before we came up with Work It Out, but I actually now it just flows and it works. If someone comes and says they're having problems with someone, you say, well, work it out. Okay, just work it out. It works. But we spent a lot of time thinking about things like that. How do we communicate it? How is it going to land? How do we make it easy for our leaders to have these conversations? It doesn't work for them to be using these really kind of corporate terms. It doesn't fit their language. They're the ones using this. It needs to feel natural to them. With the video, which I'd actually forgotten about, blast from the past, but that was really fun. But again, that's just another attempt to try and add a bit of humor to it as well. we want people to engage with this. We want people to stop and listen and understand it. And, you know, there's ways to do that. There's ways not, you know, people don't read stuff. You know, people are bombarded with emails and news shots and newsletters. So we try something different. And I jumped out from behind things around the plant with signs and made a tit of myself, but it seemed to work.
But it's the bit of if you took from that perspective, you made it what the colleagues would understand and enjoy, which is really, really important. And when I saw the video, I was like, yeah, actually that's really great and different. But it's relatable for the colleagues. And I think also the other bit with your framework, with your policy before of multi-documents, the documents were squeezed down to make it really relatable, still very professional, legal, compliant, those kind of things. But where we had multiple documents, your colleagues would never have read, it was slimmed down considerably, wasn't it? The documentation to make it more manageable and attainable to understand.
Yeah, we wanted it as short and sweet as possible. Like I say, no one actually reads the policies, so we wanted a useful document that people could refer to. And to be fair, it's a simple concept, so it didn't need reams and reams of writing. It's have a conversation. You know, if you're off sick and we don't believe why you're off sick, we're going to talk to you about it. And if, you know, you're lying to us, that doesn't really fit with our values, so we're going to have a really honest conversation about that. And we don't need triggers. We don't need, you know, loads of red tape and all of that. We still have we're still ACAS compliant. You can still have a formal conversation that, you know, requires the right to be accompanied and all of that. But we don't need to write Law and Peace to War and Peace. To, you know,
well, we've got a new phrase now, law and peace. So we've got that.
Is the right one, is it?
So we've got war and peace. You're right though about war and peace. People don't need it, and that's about moving to that more modern framework. And what benefits since you implemented? I think it was last year. You went. Was it last year you went live?
Summer,
what benefits have you started to see from the implementation of Work It Out?
We've really seen managers starting to own their own teams and really get stuck in. I mean, I think because we have multi-sites and we have, you know, multiple cultures and stuff, it is working better in certain places than others. But where it is really working is where leaders have really embraced it. And they're really having the conversations early on. They're not, you know, referring to, I'm going to talk to HR about this. They're going and dealing with it themselves. They're owning it. They're having the conversation. And it's really great to see those leaders growing, enjoying their jobs more because they're getting more respect from their teams and not feeling like they're just having to tell people off. There's that respect in the relationship there. So the leaders are enjoying their jobs. Their HR partners are enjoying their jobs more because they're not just being termed as HR and being wheeled in with a big stick. So everyone is enjoying it more. It feels more respectful and it is working. The caveat to that is the sites which have further to go are struggling because it's so overwhelmed. Like it's hard to start behaving differently and forming different habits when the kind of the environmental factors haven't changed. It's so easy to fall back into old practices, but we're not giving up and we keep going. It's about recreating that environment for them where it's, you know, the other sites where it's worked. Let's recreate how that's worked in the other places. But it's all about the leaders, and that's where we've seen the real difference, and also how we've seen a difference.
And I think the bit there is that a framework of policies is only as good as how it's led and how it's worked, and that was that first line of defence of actually getting the leaders being more accountable again. So realigning that accountability of leaders need to take responsibility for their teams rather than there's a problem, HR, can you come in and sort the problem out, and then it becomes judge and jury and all this kind of stuff. So that's so good. But I think the bit there is not giving up and going, actually, what works well there? Where do we take it? Where do we move it to keep going? Because it is a 3-year cycle to really kind of help and develop. But I just think it's showing our audience that it's not always going to be rose in the garden, but you've got to, what the key wins, and actually less work for HR, but more work now for HR in the correct way of coaching, developing strategic rather than firefighting. That's a big win as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've also noticed, even where it feels like slow progress, if I actually think back to where we were a year ago, we have come a long way in terms of how we are approaching supporting those leaders. The language is a massive thing, like how we refer to processes and meetings and how we go into those meetings. Just changing the language completely changes the mindset. I've noticed it personally when I'm talking about it. Stop talking about disciplinaries and telling people off and warnings has really changed how I think about how we approach where something isn't working, and what solutions come to mind when you change the language with which you approach it. So we've got a long way to go, but we've also come a long way just in terms of the collective mindset of how we work with people, and our behaviors is changing.
Yeah. And what benefits have you seen for colleagues then? So we've seen for like the organisation, what difference have you seen in colleagues, like on the ground, experiencing the framework? What difference have you seen there?
I think it's been an unsettling time for some people because of the change. People don't like change. People used to know the triggers of when they would have a formal conversation, and we've completely pulled the rug out from under people. But I think the dust is settling, and they're starting to realise, actually, I just got to be honest, and starting to build those relationships with leaders, and realising that we're all adults, we're all in this together, and treat your leaders with respect, and they'll treat you with respect. And so it's now kind of the fear factor has gone. I think people are starting to realise that it is a positive thing for them, and that we are committed as a business to really living and breathing our values. And I'd hope that people will feel more open to asking for support with dealing with conflict. That before, the only real route to resolution was a formal grievance, whereas now there's other ways for us to support someone to have a conversation to help find a solution without having to go through the trauma of a grievance. So I'd hope it makes it a nicer place to work. And our engagement scores this year have shown improvement. So I think it is, impacting on experiences at work, and hopefully been a positive impact for our colleagues.
And the couple of bits where you were saying there about the language, so to help colleagues and that, and also being more respectful to each other, and that's creating that adult to adult relationship rather than, you said earlier on, that teacher child kind of petulance, and that's how we were going to look after you. And I think the bit there is, so what stages or steps going forward now? Is there anything else that you think you need to bring into the framework, or anything new you're doing with it, or is it embedding? What's the kind of next phase for you with Saint Gobain Pam?
I think it's keep going. It's like I say, it's not we're not there, and I think staying consistent and not not changing things too soon where things aren't working straight away. So being consistent, sharing the good news stories. We've had some great results from conversations that have resulted in great outcomes for people. Sharing that to try and break down the stigma around having the conversation and raising a shout out and going through a work it out process. So I think we're not going to be doing anything drastic. It's just about keep going, keep plodding, keep talking about it, promoting it, sharing the successes, and just keep supporting our leaders to have those conversations.
And it is about, which I really love there, about embedding process, consistent with it, people will get it. Because the bit there is, if you change or divert from that path, people will go, great, we're going back. And we know that was destructive and harmful, that path. So that I really love about keep going that path along, keep supporting your leaders from that perspective. And the bit as well, going through that framework, that you actually then upskilled, there was HR colleagues upskilled within that framework. So there was loads of upskilling to help the embedding. It's not just the paperwork and the documentation, was it? It's lots of upskilling for those colleagues to make them feel in a good place and more competent, wasn't it? That went along with the framework as well.
Yeah, and that's something that we're keen to carry on doing, but also to use the skills. So we've got a team of trained mediators now in Saint Gobain Pam, but the nice thing is we haven't actually had to use them that much because things haven't escalated to that level.
Yeah. Good.
So we need to find a way to keep those skills fresh for when we do need mediators to whip out their mediation skills. So that's something that we'll keep looking for opportunities to do that. And that's not saying they haven't used them, because they've facilitated conversations. So the skills are coming into play before actually having to do a formal full-on mediation process. So it's still useful skills, but is how do we make sure that they're continually challenged and growing and learning in that area, to make sure that we have the resources we need them.
And it's so great that they're using the skills, and rather than just going, I have to use them for remediation, they're life skills to actually use from that perspective.
I use them with my toddlers, to be honest. I use them every day.
So and that's the bit I just love that about that life skill, using it every day, that kind of stuff. So for you, I know you and I, we could have a good chat and we could talk kind of for quite a period of time, but what's on your personal goals for this year in 2024? What's Vic working on? People are always curious. I always get people asking, what's Vic working on for this year?
For me this year, my focus is on getting my head around AI, changes in technology. I am so intrigued by what AI can do, but also how that's going to change the way we work. So how can we embrace it? How can we get the most out of people? Encourage more deep thinking and let the computers do the boring stuff. How can we really inspire people to grow, learn, develop by letting go and letting computers do more? There's a lot of fear around it. So I'm really intrigued by AI, but also what that impact is going to have on the way we work. And also the other thing that I'm really interested in is how things are changing, how careers are changing, how people don't have kind of solid career paths anymore, or roles aren't the same as they used to. People aren't just a finance person, they're not just EHS. There's so many blurred lines. They're an influencer on the side, or an every driver. So how do we incorporate that into skills into our business and use them, but also attract great talent and be more flexible to allow for people to work differently? I find all of that really interesting. People, that's why I love HR, because people change. And so keeping up with that, trying to keep up with the kids, if you like. That's where my focus is. TikTok and Instagram, that's where my learning and development is this year.
I love the phrase there, keeping up with the kids. Now I think that's going to be brilliant for today. So the bit there which I really love about embracing AI change, those kind of things, but seeing the benefits from it rather than people taking over, actually then let the AI do the stuff we don't want to do, but then actually the good stuff, and especially from a HR perspective, those kind of things. I think that's really good. So how can people connect with you, reach out to you, Vic? Because we get people that say, can we connect with people? What's the best way that people can connect or reach out to you?
LinkedIn. I'm all about the social media. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to have a chat, if there's anything that we can. And I love networking and finding other people with like-minded people to learn from and be inspired by. So yeah, that would be really exciting if anyone wants to get in touch.
Fantastic. So, Vic, can I just say a huge thank you for giving up your time today? I know you're super busy at the moment, so I really, really appreciate it. I've loved today speaking to you again and hearing all the good stuff about what you've put into about helping work it out with Saint Gobain Pam. But can I just say, have a fantastic weekend and thank you ever so much for today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. I'll get some lime rain in the post to you shortly.
Definitely. I appreciate that. Thank you ever so much, Vic. Cheers then.
Bye.